So each team's got these. These are called putty scrapers, and each team has a whole bunch of these, which are called roller chisels. And these are specifically designed to remove putty, and we're going to start with those, and then find the screwdriver. So these have, probably going to want to use that one to get that off there. We've got the other side of the sash lock on the other sash that needs to come off, and you've got a handle on the lower sash that needs to come off. And you've got a screwdriver, probably yellow, inside your box like that. So, there's your utility knife. Somebody needs to get up here and start working on this and get this off. I want you wearing your mask starting now. There's a lot of screws. Also, if you have any knots in the side of your sash, they need to be pulled out. Any ropes. Also, another team member for each team can take the end cutters. Here they are. These are called end cutters. Every toolbox has some. All right. We never pound nails out from the front. We pull them from the back. So, because if we pound them out, the head will break the wood off on the trim. So we have one screw in this one, which may have to come out from the outside. But we pull all these nails just like this. You grab onto it, and you just go like this. Same thing on this piece, okay? Sometimes you're going to find that other one had cut nails in it, so I hate doing that. Yeah. You can tell. Now that one's a cut nail, so you can get on this. They're a little brittle. Get on it. Yeah, she's using it. Right like this. And then you also have a Cobra, which is what this is, which is also infrared. And these are really amazing for getting in for whoop-de-doos on porches and all kinds of things.
Whoop-de-doo, another technical term.
I like to use technical terminology. So we cover the glass with aluminum flashings, so it reflects the heat away from the glass. So this arm is a prop designed for window restoration by the company that makes these.
How do you do? I got it.
Through the body. I still have the first one I bought in Sweden, and I've never had to replace the bulbs. I've had to replace, the only time I've ever had to replace bulbs is when the students have dropped them off second stories. If I want to recommend, so I've tested all of these, and this is the only one that's UL listed for electrical safety. The handles don't fall off. They do the best job of them all, and so I can tell you that, and I pay $500 for them, just like you do. I don't get discounts. I don't take anything free. I take those clamps off and flip it up. Both sashes you want flipped up on the putty side, which would be the exterior side. The first thing that we're going to do is see what putty will come out loosely. All right. So here we go with this water thing. Right. So we're not soaking. We're just lightly misting. Right. Well, you have your respirators on. I can't because I'm talking. So I want to try to get behind what I can here and see what will come out. If you get any resistance, stop. I'm not getting any resistance. Okay, you see what I'm saying? You're just trying to get what's loose out because what if
This water, Bob.
hang on.
That water.
So if it gives you some resistance, the infrared heating device will take the putty out. Okay? So you're just trying to get the loose out first. Remember we were talking about those weight add-ons? It's a 1 pound add-on. And this is the pulley that we have. it was kind of hard to see up there, but what they did is they drilled 3 drill holes, the thickness of this into the jamb, and then they didn't have to mortise it out like in a normal hole. John Leake, the guy that was here 5 or 6 years ago doing this, he and I did some side-by-side stuff years ago. We've been watching every year with the putties, and Dap just failed immediately. So you don't want to use that. That's a special tool for something else. You only want to use those, and there should be 3 of them in your box. You have 4 actually. And you don't pry against the glass. Only come along the side. If it's coming out that hard, stop. Yeah, you don't want to even mess with it. Put this back in the box, please. When we back a lot, we turn the speed heaters off so that we don't blow a circuit. These will suck your face off, and that's what you want. I hate wind and back. I think you got enough off. This is the only piece of cylinder glass that's in the entire thing. Yeah, it sucks it all up. That's what you want. That little HEPA back in there, not even close. We're going to back a lot because backing is what keeps us safe. Avery's going to take these are cast, these are not brass. Avery's going to take a wire wheel and get all the paint off of them, and we're going to spray paint them satin black, which is what they would have been from the factory originally. For this tool. And it has a little washer that's loose, so spacer, we don't want to lose that. I'm going to try to keep it on the threaded part. This is an early one. This one dates back to about 1994, and it has the side fins are actually adjustable. But when they're fully extended, that's where it's the safest. So after that year, they quit having them permanently fixed, so people couldn't get stupid and get it too close. Not that people ever get stupid. Absurd. This can do siding. So I have a track that they sell that I screw to the bottom side of the eave, the soffit, the underneath side of an eave, and it's got a knuckled arm that comes down, and you can just slide this as you go along the clapboard. These are fantastic on arts and crafts era houses. They're great on Victorian era houses as well, but they specifically do a great job from 1900 to about 1930 because what they did is they started face nailing clapboard. So you had a headed box nail, and they would face nail it during the arts and crafts era. And another tool that I use that I'm going to show tomorrow, which is called a paint shaver, which actually shaves the paint off the clapboard face and the butt edge of the piece above it, just like this. It hates arts and crafts era because it hits the heads of those nails. Whereas in the earlier time, Victorian era and even before, they set the nails below the surface and filled them with glazing putty. So that tool works really well for Victorian era stuff, not so great for arts and crafts. The arm goes in here like this. What we want to do is, well, you got a lot of putty out of this one. We're going to turn this one this way, like this. We're going to get it about that far away from the table, and so it's helpful to have teammates that will hold the sash while you're working on it. In here we have what are called hook shavers. Some people call them pull shavers. I don't know I don't want those. These are carbide scrapers, which we use later, not for the paint removal. Okay. All right, so this is what's called a siding scraper. You see that it's got a little curve to it? Old window sashes also get that. And a flat blade will come and it'll get the paint off here and here, but not in the middle. So they put a little bit of an arc in these. These come from the Speed Heater Company as well. Where's Avery? It's on. See the green button?
Mm-hmm.
You can hear it starting to warm up. Now, yeah, right on the money. Good boy. Good boy. So we set these right up next to the putty and overlap them like that. We reuse these, obviously.
What is that? Is that just aluminum?
So you can buy these packets. They're little aluminum flashings for chimneys. And you can buy them in packs. And the idea is to reflect the heat away from the glass. Galvanized flashings will absorb the heat and it causes the glass to break. So we use aluminum for that very reason. And since we're going to be doing both sides of this, so go ahead and put these around that other piece of glass. How's this? Oh, it's looking good. You guys have yours on? Hang on. I don't know how those got in there, but those are galvanized. We bought one pack of them and tried to like stash them away, and they end up getting in. You can tell they're galvanized just by the mottled look on them. You need a roller chisel. Can I have one? Thank you. A roller chisel. These glazing beds are not very deep. You can see that. So I want this to be exactly where that roller is, almost out to the end. But you can adjust these for really deep beds or what have you. We're gonna come right up here like that. And the roller part goes on the wood. And this just gives you some control so that you don't bung this up. This little edge right here is where your putty knife is, and if it's all hacked up, your putty will look like this. Does that make sense? This prop is designed so that this will stay flat on this. That's why you have to be a little bit away from the table. And you set it over there like that, and then you start to watch it. And what will happen is that it will start to evaporate a little bit of that resin, and you'll see some smoke. And when it starts to smoke, you give it a 5 count, and then you, we don't have any putty on this side because it all came out. But you always hit the putty first, then the flat. Putty first, then the flat. I'll show you when we do this one. So I'm watching this, and I'll start smoking here in a minute or two. And I want, when I pull this off, I'm going to hand it to somebody. If you set it on its side so it's not pointed toward anything combustible, you'll be fine. Okay, now, you see it's just now starting to smoke a little bit. So I'm going to give it a 5 count. 1, 2, 3, ready? 4, 5. Hold the sash, please. Hold the sash, please.
Senior order on today.
Okay, and then if it starts to sound like, listen. If it starts to sound like a chalkboard, you stop. It needs to be gummy, all right? Because if it starts to sound like a chalkboard, then you're dry scraping it, and we don't want to do that. All right, so that section's done. You can do it all the way down to here, then you turn this off, you take your vac, and you vac up all the debris. Does that make sense?
Well, what paint react that way? Is there any paint that don't get gummy like
So,
that?
it doesn't like latex paint unless you, the night before, coat it with a thin coat of boiled linseed oil. Then it'll blow 10 layers of latex paint off, no problem. It loves lead paint. And that's what this is.
What about milk paint? You know, old
Yeah, milk paint's a little tough, but it actually works on milk paint.
Oh.
One of the few things it does, actually. Because the resin evaporating underneath the surface pushes it off.
Oh, the resin's in there.
Yeah, right. Okay, so let's try another. You want to overlap, so it's best from about here to here. So you put it on there so it overlaps a little bit onto the last spot that you did. Yep. Center. Keep an eye on it. And then somebody needs to hold it, so, because you know a lot of this is upper arm strength in this world of mine. And it's just the reality of it. Put this right here. Is that about centered? That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, this is the right one. You try this one? In some ways, I like these better. It just depends. These are really great on clapboard because clapboard gets cupped. You know. See how nice it takes it off? Two hands. Always use two hands when you're doing this. Just like that. You always have to have this at the ready. This is not adjusted properly. And I think I'm too warm. But no, I'm still warm. You know, it's astonishing sometimes. It just depends. Now you're not going to get it all out. And when you're holding it up like this and you're really good, that's great. You never want to go in like that because that'll eat it, right? But you can go out like this and do it. And if you're cutting it underneath, I don't care. A little wood underneath it, it's all right because that actually will give it some roughness and a key for the putty. All right? It's all right. I haven't shown. Avery hasn't been with me that long. So. And now feel that. These are hook shaves. And Catherine Brooks at Echo Strip sells these and those roller chisels.
Yep.
Aren't those nice?
Yeah.
The key is not to be in like this. You're better off being out like this because that'll bulk it out and then we can get the rest out easier with carbide scrapers and stuff. So I get on. It's almost like a planing action, you know what I'm saying? Set down when you're done with it. And then use in and out like this. And turn it on. Wait till it gets red. It's the same kind of deal as the big screw heater. This one doesn't, it only gives you that much distance away from what you're doing. And so people, I think homeowners can get out of control with these. Because if you get too close, you could burn the wood. You don't want to do it if you can help it. That's looking pretty red. Look at it and tell me if it starts to smell. Yeah? You want to be careful to keep it low if you can. It's got a little bevel. You want the bevel on the top. You want to probably get some glass if you can help it. All right. So to get the glass out, guys, you need your utility knife, and you want to come around. This slots up into a groove, alright? So this your sash only has now. There's a point there. All right. So here's how I get the points out. This corner here, and there may be another one underneath there. When you run the utility knife along this edge, if there's a point, you'll run over.
Yeah.
Those two. And then inside corners will mess you up bad.
And this stuff here, this.
Alright, this one you take over the edge, put your fingers underneath and ease it up, and if it starts to feel like you're hitting something, remember, it's in a slot down on this end. Yeah, those little binds might not feel like much, but it'll crack glass faster than. This is not old glass, so I mean, the goal is to try to get you to get it out whole.
It's not old glass.
Right there.
Everybody okay? Yeah. So loading for this class is an art. This is the first time Avery's ever done it for me. Did a good job. Only forgot a couple things. Dalton on his first one forgot half the crap that was on the list, so you're doing it. How's it going? Were you able to get the utility blade between the glass and the wood alright?
So, yeah.
Yeah, there it is. I'll give it a try. Alright, now here's the trick. This is the trick. This is the trick. So you got it up. Hey everybody, on bottom sashes, this is the bottom rail, and that's the top of it. There's only putty on 3 sides, and there's a slot at the top. So when you take it out, you have to kind of get on it like this, go like that, and pull it out of the slot.
Oh wow, what is the reason for that?
So you don't see a putty, an angled putty on from the inside.
Oh, okay.
It took me years to figure that out, man. I just told you in 2 seconds. Avery, where are you stashing this stuff, buddy? Right over here. Yeah, here. This is how. You got one where?
Right there.
Yeah, so you see that? So you want to be not here on the glass, just up on that little corner a little bit. 2 hands. You know, a lot of life is about the right tool. I'm going to turn it to face the molding profile. Okay. I'm going to get ready to hand this to you. You ready? Now give me the carbide scraper, please. Here, take it. So you've got a flat here. Hold the sash, please. You've got an inside here. That's what this is. But we didn't bring it, so this is the only one we have. That gets that inside curve. Okay. Then you can come back here with the carbide scraper on this flat. Please. We're going to heat this again real quick. It takes a little longer to get, but you want to always do that molding profile first. No, this is the only one that got brought. But you can also use this. I'll show you. See how I'm getting down here like this instead of up like this? I'm using two hands so I can control it. Okay. So that's what you're after. You guys can use this for the inside curve. There. Come up like that. Or you can try this, alright? And then, so when you heat this up, you do the flat with the carbide scraper. You got another flat up here that gets done with the carbide scraper, and then either one of these. Okay, so if this is the upper sash, and we do this, you can see it's racking back and forth, right?
Yep.
So it's not tight on the joints, and we've got some things to do here. You have to get all the debris out of the joints, and that's any debris that's in these joints are pretty tight. Usually the top rail is in pretty good shape. We don't have to repin it, but you have to also look at the interior side and get any debris out of there and out of here and here and here and here. And then we'll clamp it back together and we'll repin it. And at the same time, somebody in each team needs to get their glass up on this and start cleaning it. So our glass, I believe, is over here.
I'll put it.
Yep. Where's the new glass? Right here?
Yeah.
This is new old glass.
Talk to the window expert back here.
One of 24 made. Swiss Art watch built into it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't that fun? So let's put two of these on your carpet pads. Let's put them up so they can just screw them on. Alright, so cleaning glass is pretty simple. You never do it dry, because if you do it dry, you will scratch the glass, especially old wavy cylinder glass. So
Cylinder glass?
yes,
I can see the wave.
he cut us old glass. How about that? Let's give him, what's his name?
Dustin.
Dustin, thank you.
Yay, Dustin.
You're a manly man. We use carpet pads to keep it flat as much as we can and to keep from scratching it on the table. And then we have this blue stuff here is not, somebody hand me that please? This is not Windex, this is car washer fluid.
Oh.
It gets bugs off windshields, maybe it works really well on this.
Where can you buy it?
Anywhere. Is that a joke?
O'Reilly's?
For $1.
You've heard about
you made the
catalytic
stuff you
converters,
put-
haven't you, Olive?
Looks like you had a literal
So you
car wash.
spray
You
it.
need a window.
Okay, everybody listen, Olive.
Trying to.
Yes, Bob.
Oh. Yes,
So
Bob.
you spray all the edges because that's what you're cleaning the most. I do that on one side and then I carefully turn it over like this and I spray the other side. Now you can use these wussy things here if you want to.
That's what I use.
Yeah.
I like my
Enough said, right?
Should we check his window to make sure water's not going in there?
You can check it. We brought some OSB if we need it, but
Oh.
so you can use these if you want to, but I just like to use the straight little razor blade by itself.
No wonder your cuticles look so nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you got the finger. That was on camera.
Bob Yap, instructor, flipped the bird to one of his students.
We didn't fight it back. It'll be in the paper.
So this is what you're doing, right? You got it? You with me? And then you just scrape this crap off both sides. You've got two sides that don't have it because he cut the glass out of larger pieces. All right? And so each team needs to have their bench set up. Avery was supposed to set up both benches. Okay.
Check on that window. Well, we still have to strip. We got some stripping.
Well, you guys can go ahead and do that, even with the clamps on. Just leave them on for a little bit longer. But you need somebody on that side of the bench to be cleaning glass. Carpet pads, we need to set up over here too. on both benches.
Too early to take these clamps off, you think?
Yeah, I try to work around them for now. If you can't, flip the sash over and see what you can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we gotta order new cabinets, countertops. These are discolored. And then you order them and they come here and they got the same.
Right, like what the hell?
Bring around to you when you get all the paint off the edges, and try not to put any pressure on it like you have your fingers underneath there. Yeah, don't do that. We're going to take 4-aught steel wool and denatured alcohol, and that will take the environmental haze off the glass. Gloss, we use paper towel.
Do you have any open already?
Right there.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Except newspaper used to be printed with oil-based ink. Now it's a latex-based ink, and so it doesn't work with it.
Well, you can go to Home Depot and spend $19.95 on a little package of and you get it.
Do that.
Yeah, don't buy it.
So they could plug in over here. Oh,
What's
you gotta get these pinned because you gotta get. So I use architectural epoxy when I'm doing that, and that's what this is right here. This is called Abatron, and it's 2 parts, 50% of each. And then this is the liquid Abatron that we use as a primer, and you can't use the putty without the liquid. It's a big mistake a lot of people make, and it helps consolidate the old rot and turn it into good wood. It's an amazing product. So if you take a look at this, I had 200 of these on a balcony balustrade off of a master bedroom in a Tudor mansion that we restored. And the rot on the bottoms of them, because the rail came off and water was coming around underneath, I can stick my finger up in here. Now we consolidated that with liquid. Feel that now. Keep working, don't stop. So then we stuffed a bunch of epoxy into it, liquid and putty, and this is what we ended up with.
And now they have
Check that out.
198.
So this is cypress. This would have cost me somewhere between $80 and $160 a piece to turn. I could do it cheaper, but just to get one solid piece of cypress this size is very expensive today, old growth. And so by doing this, we were able to save it. But you'll notice that there are some small holes drilled in the bottom. Because what we learned the hard way is that if you don't have a way at the bottom of something with epoxy on it, for the moisture above the patch to get through, it can rot the wood above the patch. So we drill little weep holes in the bottom so that the moisture can get through the putty. Does that make sense?
Yep.
We don't have to use it, but I wanted to show you that. Here's the other thing that surprises a lot of people about windows and exterior doors, is that none of the joints were ever glued. So this is a mortise and tenon joint. Tenon is the peg, the mortise is the square hole. These fit together like that, and they're more snug than this particular one is. And they used a peg to hold it together, and that was it. Now we're going to augment it with a couple of little stainless steel pins. And if you glue it, wood contracts and expands the most across its width. Very little in its length. And so this would be, we would have it glued, this would be contracting and expanding this way, and it would break the joint and cause cracking in the pieces that were glued together. So that's why we never do that outside. Kitchen cabinets, we do it all the time. Because they aren't exposed to the weather. But for exterior doors and exterior windows, we always carry a pin. Oh, hand me one of those bar clamps. Jesus had nothing to do with it. I need all this stuff off the bench.
Oh, yeah. Intern.
These are called pipe plans.
No, just so we don't start overlapping each other so much.
Now, here's the thing about this. We're gonna
just half of it.
everybody come here.
The other end looks great.
We're gonna repin these sashes. Our biggest issue is that this is an upper sash, that's the bottom of it, and that rail has fallen down, which is typical of what you see on upper sashes all the time, because of gravity. So you can see this gigantic gap here, big gap here, right? You with me?
Yeah.
Right. So when you put up a bar clamp, you want to make sure that this is not touching the table. So you want it just above. I'm going to snug this a little bit. And want it just above, because we're going to drive these pins in, clamp this to the table, and the pins don't have a point on them. So they can poof a piece of wood out the other side if you don't have it clamped tight to the table. And if this jaw is below the other side of the sash, it won't clamp down to the table. All right? The other thing that's really important is that you be off to the side of the tenon. So here's the tenon right here. I'm right off to the side of it. And the other thing is the pipe needs to be parallel to this. If you do that, the sash will be square. If it's off at an angle, it won't be. Now watch what happens.
Oh my gosh.
Now, dead blow hammer out of your toolbox, please.
Did you do any glue or anything into that joint there?
Say again?
Did you do any glue or anything?
Never
into that
glue a
joint?
mortise and tenon joint.
Never, okay.
You can tap that in, so now it's in as far as it'll go. Now we're going to take the other pipe clamp.
Can you still buy pipe clamps?
Well, you can buy the heads all over the place. Grizzly
So you
sells
just get
them.
your own pipe.
And the pipe's the most expensive part of the pipe
Just
clamp.
go buy the black iron.
And you know,
We're in town.
here, can you move this
That
stuff
you
out of
can
the
find
way?
in town.
Yeah, the plumbing.
So the one thing I never have enough of are pipe clamps. So every auction I go to, I buy them. Now, I want to make sure I'm off that tenon right on the edge of it. See that?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm looking to see if I'm parallel. That's pretty good. That brings that in tight, and notice it brought this in tight too, right? So that's all good. Now, Avery, do we have little square, mini black framing squares? Thank you. So I come in here and I want to see how square, and that's perfect. And that is perfect. So that's what we want, right? You don't even have to, I still check, but if you make sure your pipe clamps are parallel to the side that you're clamping, it'll come together square. Now, you have those little squeeze clamps.
Yeah.
Could I please have 2 of them? Yes. Hold those, please. Turn this around. We don't have to put any auxiliary pins in up here because the old peg is just doing its job wonderfully. So we're going to put this right here like that. And we're going to clamp this down to the table like this. It's nice and tight to the table.
Well, as soon as I saw you look there, I was
Okay, now Avery's getting the drill. We don't use a drill bit to drill a pilot hole for these pins. We actually take out of your clear kit and we take a number 6 finish nail and we cut the head off. That's your drill bit. What is it? How does a drill bit make a hole? It bores, but what does it do? It cuts wood away. This bores into it, and when you put the pin in afterwards, the fibers squeeze back around it because we're not cutting any wood away. There's no flutes for like a drill bit. So you have to think.
Is that going to become your pin, or is that?
No, that's just for your pilot hole.
Okay.
All right.
Number 2.
So where's their kit?
Number 2 finishing now.
No, number 6.
Number 6.
So these are the pins that we're going to use, and they come from Granger. Granger is a big industrial supply company, and they don't call them sash pins. I guarantee you, they're 5/32 by 1 inch. Residential sashes are 1 3/8 inches thick. Commercial sashes are either 1 3/4 or 2 1/4. I've even seen them 2 3/4. But those are the general three thicknesses: 1 3/8, 1 3/4, and 2 1/4. So most houses, my house is different. My house has 1 3/4 inch sashes, but it was the first robber baron house built in Hannibal. And the guy wanted everybody in town to know how big as you know what was. So you had to have a big belvedere, and you had to have all this stuff. Yeah, right. So what we, in these cases are pencils, mechanical pencils and Sharpies. So you have to take a look at this. And if everybody comes over here, you'll see what I'm talking about. Come on over here. Get wet. This is your tenon. This is a double tenon. See there? All right. So I want to get the meat of this into that tenon. So I'm going to come here and here. And I'm going to turn this just a little bit like this. So we can get a little bit more out of the way. There we go. All right. So I made a mark here and I made a mark here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my drill bit and I want to make sure that it's not longer than the pin, which that is. Okay. So I'm just going to push that in just a little bit. And that's just about exactly right.
You want it exact?
Yeah, just about. Or a little less even. You stand it on your mark, straight up and down, and then you angle it towards your other mark, which is right here. Just a little bit. And when you have two pins like that, then it creates a clamping action where they're angled at each other.
Oh, okay.
Right? And we're getting into the meat of this tenon. Stand it straight up, tilt it towards my other mark. But you don't want the chuck teeth to hit the wood because they'll mar it and then I'll have to spank you.
I'm so real concerned about making it in through that second corner.
Yes. So I'm going to show you. This is thicker. Meeting rails are thicker. This is 1 3/8 inch thick here, but this is actually about 1 3/4. So we have to go in, we have to set them a little deeper. So you set that right over the hole and you get it started. And then once you get it started, you move your hand out of the way.
And the pins are what? Are they specific?
They're 1 inch by 5/32 stainless steel pins. And I think Granger calls them dowels.
Okay.
So I'm going to set this. Normally, if we were doing down here on the 1 3/8 inch thick area, remember this is 1 3/4 about, we would set it about 1/8 below the surface. So it's 1 3/8 is 1 inch pin, no problem. But we use glazing putty to fill little holes, not architectural epoxy, because it has more flexibility and it won't pop out as easily. And in order for the glazing putty to fit in properly and be seated into a hole, it needs to be at least 1/8 of an inch deep. We're going to do these a little deeper because you need to get through this, through here, and into that. So that's why we're setting those a little deeper. That make sense? Yep. So somebody needs to do that over there. If you want my opinion, Hitachi makes the best field routers on the planet. They're just great. I buy them at pawn shops for about 40 bucks. Yeah. You know, I don't feel bad buying stuff at pawn shops. People, you know, needed money, couldn't pay it off. Okay.
Or they stole it from Mark and went and kept it again.
You feel bad at all about that?
Might be Mark's router, right?
Yeah,
So let's get both of these plugged into that strip.
They are new.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to route the slot for the track. Yeah, the sizes of this are on the handout and all the different things you need to know about the router bits. All right. So we want to make sure that any pegs not sticking out. All right. You want to take your block sander. Right, yep, no, block sand right there. And if the tenon is sticking out here, you want to push it up a little bit.
Yeah, I only brought these because I knew it was going to be around now.
You're uninvited.
Let me feel.
Okay.
Yeah, just
You didn't ask me from what.
That's good. Okay. Now I've got this over the edge of the table. I'm gonna route the slots for the track first. This is a 5/32 inch slotting bit. It's all in your handout stuff. How do you know what side to route to? You always route from the side that has 4 flush corners. This side has 2 flush corners and this. Okay? So if I were to run this router here, it would bump into that, right? So that's how you always know that. It's always the side, and on upper sashes, it's the exterior side, on lower sashes, it's the interior side. This is a piece of the track. So we set this up.
Oh, okay, that's what I can try what we're
We set this up, so we took a square, put it on the back side of this, and got it so that that cutter is dead center on that rib. Just like that. Okay? Right. And we keep
So
a
this one's
for the rubber gasket. It's a much thinner one. See, you look at that. This one's 5/32. This is 3/32.
right.
Right. I need somebody to hold it there and hold it there, and don't let it move. Hold it right there. Okay. So we're going to cut the slot. Get this going just a little faster. Whenever you're using a router, carbide scraping, you got to make sure the base is like flat. See how I'm rocking it until it's flat? You come in here like this. You got to make sure it stays flat when you're running it all the way, or the slot won't be parallel to the edge, right? All right, now we test it. Now, here. You want to run it this way to make sure it doesn't catch on the tenon. Do the same thing this way, make sure it doesn't catch on it. Now feel how that smooth that is. That's how smooth the window will go up and down.
And these are called what? And we get them.
It's called Dorbin Metal Track. They've been making it since the 1800s. They're in Chicago. You call them up and they say, "What the F do you want?" You know, they're Polish guys. Yeah.
I want a pierogi.
It's all on your handout material. Well, nobody does. It's all going to be sent to
If you
you.
had signed up like you were supposed to.
Now I'm going to turn this way. Please hold the sash nice and tight for me again. Just to make this as smooth as I can, right? Test it, please.
You can go buy one of those too.
So it's got to come this way. You see the catches on it. Same thing on that end.
On the side. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, that's catching.
No, it's not catching. If it was,
Funny
it's
it
not
was,
now.
because I could even feel it.
Probably
Must be crooked or something.
Okay, so that's the slots for the upper sash. Now this one gets 2 pieces of rubber. Where does the 1 piece of rubber go?
Well, one on the bottom, one on the top.
So one goes right up here, and one goes on this face.
Oh, where it meets up with the other
Which
one.
is another reason that we do our pins the way we did it, so we can go between them without cutting them off. I love it.
Jesus.
They come
It's
together.
all coming together.
Like you've done this before.
And
First time I've ever done it.
back up. 15 degrees.
Now this is a little tricky. You got to I need 2 people holding this thing. Hammer. Screw? The Phillips screw. Anyway, we need a Phillips screwdriver. Tip.
Smells good. I love it.
Hold the sash, please. Okay, this one's all routed. Now, the next thing you have to do is you have to clean out your glazing beds.
Oh.
Let me get those out of here if you could, because the other team will be using. And we're going to do that with a carbide scraper. So you're going to need your screw clamps. One over there.
It's right by your.
Hold it down. Glazing beds are cleaned out with a carbide scraper. Real simple.
You want it over here on this other corner?
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
the edge of this is actually sharp too. So the way we do this is like this.
Oh, look at that.
If all of your glazing beds look like that, then you're done. Okay? And once that's done, we'll dry fit your glass to make sure it fits. If I have to take a 1/16 of a sliver off, I won't be happy, but I'll do it.
You were busy doing other things, Ollie.
And we're going to fill that with glazing, but we're going to fill that. Avery's going to mix up some epoxy for you. Let me see, you got some work to do and get good.
We didn't get
We
there.
knew we weren't there.
Oh,
Yeah, that was their side.
Hey!
It's just the truth.
Besides, we're this close, we can't fall apart as a team.
all right, the reason we're doing this is so that we get nice fresh wood. Now, we can't put glazing putty on fresh wood. So normally what we would do, if it wasn't a one-day class, is we would oil prime these sashes, including the glazing putty. I'm almost planing it. See that, all this little wood shaving? And I just hold that please. These are like the old-time cabinet scrapers that I used when I was doing my apprenticeship. Yep. You see that? See that? Okay. And feel how smooth that is. Feel that. So you do that on this one, you do that on the top of this one, and you do it on the flat here. Then you take these and you come in here like this. You get the inside curve. Then you come up here and do this flat at the top. Like that. And then you do this big flat down here. And then you lift it up. And turn this curved side. And then you come over the outside curve and do that a little bit. And that feels pretty nice. Feel that right there. Okay? Compared to what you got. So that has to be done. And then but what I want to do first real quick is dry fit your glass. So let's get a piece of glass. Now when you handle glass, yeah, back it off, back it off. When you handle glass, no. Like this. Now, try to bring this out over this way. Set this here. Bring it down. So it's touching the wood on both ends, just a little bit. Just perfect. Now the other piece, the way I showed you. There you go. This is antique glass. that was cut for us. Yes. So you want to be about 1/8 of an inch less in width and length than what the actual is. Alright, so glass fits. Now we take it out, put it back over there where we had it. And now you finish detailing, sanding, and sash. And then we'll be puttying in the next 30 minutes. And the homeowner's going to need to oil prime these and paint these within 2 weeks. Because if they don't, the putty will fail. You cannot prime, you cannot oil prime the traditional glazing putty. That's why when we're in a normal situation, we'll prime the entire sash, both sides, and the glazing bed. That seals the bed. We have to seal the bed, and we're going to do it with 50% denatured alcohol and 50% oil linseed oil. The denatured alcohol actually is a dryer and helps dry it out quickly. And we can bed the glass immediately after we put it down. But by soaking that 50-50 liquid into the glazing bed, it won't suck any of the oils out of the putty and make it shrink. If you put it on raw wood, it will shrink the putty and it'll fail immediately. So, these are little nuances. Denatured alcohol has dryers in it. Makes the oil linseed oil dry up pretty quick. We can make a mixture 50-50 of it to coat the glazing bed so it doesn't suck the oil out of the putty and make it shrink. So that's what will happen if you ever glaze on bare wood. Your glazing putty will fail. The slot that we did for the track is 5:30 seconds. It's a little bit over 1/8. The rib is an 1/8 that goes in there. If you made it exactly an 1/8, you'd never be able to move the window up. Right? So we take this and we sort of surgically coat the back side of the glazing bed and the bottom of it.
So it's the L, yeah.
The L, all the way around and all of it. And we're using Sarco Type M. It is a traditional glazing putty with linseed oil in it.
Oh, okay.
And it gets a little crusty on the top after you open up the thing because air, and so he's going to take off the crust off the top so we get down to the smooth stuff.
I bought the right thing, yeah.
So Sarco Type M is a linseed oil based putty. Linseed oil, if I took this rag and put some linseed oil on it and set it out in the middle of this gravel driveway, bunched up like this, in 20 minutes it would burst into flames.
Really?
Right.
Just regular linseed oil?
Oil linseed oil. Or raw, either one.
Thank God more people want to know.
More glazing putty factories in Chicago have burned to the ground because people aren't being smart. We want these rags, when we get done using these rags, because we're going to use them a lot to keep our hands and our putty knives clean, we want them in that yellow can over there. It's a special can that's designed for linseed oil rags so they won't spontaneously combust and blow us all up. It's a small detail. This is what it looks like. This is the glazing putty. You want it nice and warm in your hands. And don't put it in the microwave. Why? Because it'll blow up.
I love this job.
Oh, we got a pyro with us. Hey everybody, pay attention. Everybody come over here for just a minute and then you can get back to
You're
that.
welcome.
So we've coated this bed with boiled linseed oil, 50% and 50% denatured alcohol. Soaked in nicely. It'll combine with the linseed oil putty without any problem whatsoever. We're going to do this traditionally. Now in high traffic areas in urban communities, sometimes we'll use an acrylic latex siliconized caulk that's paintable to put on this bed at the bottom and squeeze the down into, and then we scrape, razor blade it off, and then we use regular putty for the angled putty. But we're going to do these in traditional because we're in one of the most historic towns in the Midwest. And we're going to put this right on here like this. So I'm taking my thumb and I'm just breaking it over that edge, just like that. And we're going to come all the way around like that. You don't need more than that. And then the most fun thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a sander and we're going to bed it with a sander. You're like going, what? There you go. Get it on there. As soon as you get that all the way around these two, we'll bed the glass. All right, so we're going to put this right here, right up against the wood. And then drop this down like that. All right, now I need this plugged in. Now look, we need to come over this way a little bit.
You know, I live a pretty monastic life. So,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
We'll keep it there.
It comes in 3 colors.
You want to feel it?
We need to come over that way a little bit down here too, so that we're on the putty. There we go. There we go. In your clear kit right there is a
Move around.
little Nexium bottle that says points. I quit taking this crap in my memory.
Did it?
I had acid reflux when I was a kid, so I've been taking Tums all my life. They came out with this. I thought it was a miracle.
It works
And
really well.
It does work really well. I quit taking it. I've never had acid reflux again.
Like trained yourself or something?
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, now, there's a pair of tin snips in there. So these are glazing points. Now, these are smaller than the ones you can buy at the store. They're called push points. And the ears stick out a little bit much. So I'm going to cut off the ears a little bit so they don't stick out beyond the putty.
Annoying.
You can't buy them small enough, so you just gotta...
These are the smallest you can buy.
Yeah, it stick up. But I've had that problem too. Stick up.
So in this particular case, we're going to put a glazing point about here and here. 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay. If I were to take a straight putty knife like this and put this on here like this, it's still pushing it at an angle. Even with the handle all the way down on the glass. And it could break the glass.
Yeah.
Right, we put in the angle putty, we use these, but we also use these right here. And we put our thumb gently on this, let's keep it flat. We come up here and we go like this. And we work it in, keeping this flat so it doesn't drive the point in at an angle. And there you go. All right, you want to take the tin snips and cut not the point, but the little ears off. I'm going to show you one more time, and then I'm going to let somebody do this while the other person puts the points in. So I'm just cutting that off just a little bit. See there? Okay, so that one goes right about there, okay? All right. Now, well, let's get the other piece of glass in.
Name for the angle
Looks really
putty.
nice, doesn't it?
The angle
And after
putty
it's
thing.
fine, you can
That's
come in
all.
and it doesn't, they don't neutralize it. You got them at half inch line, top.
Yeah, that goes on the other, that goes on the other side.
No, it goes on
Is it
the
on this side?
This
Okay.
one.
Oh, that's right, because it has to cover these.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. That's why I'm here, for this moment.
Yeah, so I usually go in an L. So I'll come around like this. I'm jamming this
Oh my
in.
God.
Jam it in as hard as you can. Okay? Really important. If you don't jam it in, it won't fill the
Spend a
void.
lot of time on it.
Okay?
You see, you're getting it on the...
That's so you gotta, there's gotta be a lot.
Oil linseed oil, it's fine.
We don't have to use mineral oil.
Mineral oil with what? Say,
Just put it on the glass. On the wood.
not at all. All right. So the first thing I have to do is stand this up, not flip it over, but stand it up and tool off the putty on this side. All right?
That looks really hard. It's like making a pie crust.
Now I take the corner of this and I smooth this out. get up into the corner. Now smooth this out. Get up in the corner.
I love that glass. I really see it.
The reason we have to tool it off is so we can see our sight lines. This is your sight line from inside. What you don't want to see from the inside is putty or paint.
Don't say, oh.
So I take a little bit of linseed oil, just regular boiled linseed oil, put it in a little cup, cover the bottom. If the putty gets a little dry, and linseed oil is like slick as snot. Another technical term.
It's like that road I drove on in Arizona.
Alright, so I put a little bit of this on the tip. Hold this, please.
Navajo Nine.
Because everything about good puttying is about pressure.
Yeah.
The more pressure you put on it, the better. We want to be a 1/16 of an inch behind the sight line. It's a very tiny little glazing bed.
That's what
That's
it's
what I
all
can't
about,
hardly do.
right? I know. That's right there.
That's the hard part.
Yeah,
And that noise
That's
that this made, that's what always scares me.
right with the glass.
Now this is a little dry, alright?
Yeah.
But the more you have excess you have, the easier it is to get off. See there?
Gotcha.
Whoops.
One
But I'm not cleaning that window.
pass.
Maybe I am.
Alright, now I'm going to slick this off a little bit. It gets a little craggy spot there. You got a point sticking out a little bit. It's not the end of the world. We want to be, I got a little wide right there, right? See, that's that little spot there.
Yeah,
So
the
I
knob, they're
have
gonna
to
fill
cheat,
in,
I have
yeah.
to cheat over that. Actually, a little more on
Did you
here.
say a 1/16 behind the sight line?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Because
How
you
long
can,
before that's set and you can?
it's so
Looks
simple.
easy.
Huh?
Yeah, it's not.
And then the idea is to try to get this off without messing up your good putty work.
Exactly.
Longer is better.
So I got, this is a guide.
24
I'm
hours.
just going like that. Now I'm going to come back, touch it up a little bit.
And
So
you
we have
tighten all
inside
that.
corners, and that always flummoxes people.
People, yeah.
So I'll put a little bit of this on here, come up here, come down. Come up here, come down. And you end up with a nice little inside corner.
I didn't
Yeah,
have
in
That's how this
Arkansas,
works. So this is
Yeah,
called
mine.
pumice powder.
Okay.
Some people use whiting, but pumice powder actually is really pulverized. So we put a bunch of it on here. And go around in the middle.
So what's this for? Is it for the just
Gets all the oil and all the putty.
Oh, okay.
It takes that last of the environmental haze off the glass. And you can feel it. It's like dragging, and then when it gets real smooth, you know you got the center. Then, here's the part that's tricky. It's not really tricky.
Getting it
Bunch of
on
it.
the putty.
So I'm going like this. I'm coming off the wood into the corner. Putting the bunch back in here, this direction. And so those little crumbs that you couldn't get with your putty knife, this will take them off.
So you didn't have to fight that. You didn't have to fight that.
So then you get this like this. You get it on the putty, takes off the crumbs. You get it on like that. Then you take your shot vac with the tip, the angle tip. Come in the corners pretty well. The little tip keeps you from messing up your putty. Okay? Then you'll stand it up on the edge and put a little bit on the brush and do the other side. So it's squeezed out a little bit here.
You guys are on it. You're all like doing it at once.
You get it from the same place I get the track from.
Okay.
It's called the Dorman Metal Strip Company. It's called Santa Pane. And the reason I like it, Santo Pane, is because it's got a lot of hollow, so but it compresses nicely for imperfections and things like that. Right, so in 5 minutes. See the corners are rounded on that cutting knife. Put your track, where the tracks are over here. The upper tracks have a cutout in it.
Two uppers.
Two uppers. Grab them all.
You're in charge of
And the rope is in there, is that correct, Avery?
Yeah.
So you need your drill. You need to take that bit out, put it in the kit. Put your drill, because you got an extra battery in that pack, or that drill bag there. It says, black one, that's it. Yeah. You need your parts kit, your sash, and the parting stop. And let's go in and get this top out.
Where did this